Hi, my beautiful friends. How are y'all today? Well, I wanted to say welcome to my channel, Tropical Empress in Spirit. My name is Amanda. Hello, beautiful people. How are y'all doing today? I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. I wanted to talk to y'all and get into a conversation about something that I had shared with y'all just the other day. And I know some people had questions, and were wondering, and I've had others ask me questions in the past about it. So I'm kind of going to try and cover some of it as best as I can and give y'all a few stories to kind of, maybe I hope these stories will kind of help explain some of it, but there's more. I have other stories, but it's hard to share all of it in just one video in one day. So today I wanted to get more into the topic of precognition and what exactly precognition is, in case you don't know. Precognition is the ability to foresee the future, to whether that is through visions in awake state or a meditative state, in your dreams, or it can even just be a simple warning from like your spirit guides, like a thought that goes off in your head telling you something that's going to happen soon. And at least that's the way it's been for me over the years. And so I've also said, I got my ethics, I take my psychic abilities very seriously. And it comes with a great deal of responsibility for me. And one of the things I've always said is, if I ever got a warning that one of my loved ones is going to die soon, I would never tell them. Nor would I ever tell anyone in that close circle. And there's reasons behind that. And those reasons are because I'm going to do nothing but worry the person who is supposed to die, plus the friends and family to that person. And that's not right. I know some will disagree with me on that, and I understand the reasons behind it too. But at the same time, you got to also understand, it also comes down to exactly what it is you know. What is that information? What are you being told exactly? Because for me, it's come in many different aspects to where, in most cases, I don't have all the information. In fact, I can't even think of a time where I've had 100% of the information, which is when, where, how, and why. Okay? I've never had all of those pieces. So, but still coming from the place that I come from, how I view it is, it's wrong to tell someone they're going to die soon. And, no, because for me, all I'm doing is now making that person scared out of their mind, worried, and then they're going to stop living their life. Like, instead of going out and enjoying their life, they'll probably, keep themselves locked up in their house. And I don't want to do that to anyone. And then the same thing goes for the close circle of friends and family around that person, where they're going to worry constantly. They're not going to sleep, nor is the person who's supposed to die soon that I got warned about is going to sleep either. So I don't want to do that. So for me, it's been so many variables where I have broken that rule, but understand me, there was something specific that I was told to where I had the information. And one of the times that it happened, it was unintentional though. And so these are the stories I'm going to share with y'all today. Like I said, I have many more that I have to share, in future days, but here's a portion of it. So when, oh gosh, I was about, I think I just turned 19. And my mama had just been rushed to the hospital because she couldn't breathe, because she had emphysema. And while she was in the hospital, while the doctors and the nurses were inside evaluating her, me, my stepfather, and my grandmother stepped outside out in the parking lot to smoke a cigarette and talk and wait for them to evaluate her and get her situated, because we already knew they were going to have to put her on life support and put her in ICU. That was just an automatic with her, because of her emphysema. So while me and my grandmother and my stepfather were outside in the parking lot talking, my daddy asked my grandma a question that kind of took me by surprise. The question was, as he put it, it's quote unquote, how much longer does Peggy have to live? And my ears just perked up, and I listened for my grandmother's response, and she said, I don't know. That's all, depending on Peggy and how much longer she wants to fight. And without hesitation, my mouth opened up and I said, she has 6 months. All she has is 6 months left to live. Imagine my surprise, my absolute shock and terror, even in my grandmother and my daddy's eyes. Because for me, I don't know where that came from. It was almost like as if someone took over my body in that minute and spoke for me. Because never one time ever did I ever consider or think about how long my mother had to live. Yes, doctors in the past had told us how much time she had, but my mama beat the odds too. She outlived what the doctors had told her. So it never crossed my mind, like how much longer did she really have? Because the only thing I ever focused on was her living. And I was going to go through all the hell I had to ensure she lived as long as possible. Because I knew she didn't want to die. She wasn't ready to die. She was at that time, she had just turned, or was getting ready to turn 41. And it just, the idea of losing my mother so young, that's just, I can't fathom it. You know, I couldn't fathom it then. And even today, it's still hard for me to wrap my head around. So back then, I just I'm just in shock of what I just said. And I know I'm still trying to digest it. So is my grandmother and my daddy. So after we had that little conversation, we walked inside the hospital to check on my mom and to talk with the doctors to find out what was going on. And the doctors had a conversation with us. And what they had told us is we needed to prepare to put my mother in hospice care because she was that sick. It's the fact that they said they would never, ever recommend doing such a thing until they felt like someone had 6 months or less to live. Imagine my shock. Even my grandmother and my daddy, all three of us are like a deer in the headlights, shocked. Like what? Frozen stiff, because obviously I just said the same thing just a couple hours ago in the parking lot. And here now a doctor's coming through and saying exactly what I said. So they are like right this time. But I didn't want them to be right. I didn't want to be right. And I remember just saying up to the sky and telling God, don't let me be right. I want to be wrong. Please. She can't die in 6 months, you know. So that was a lot for me to handle. It was a lot for the three of us to handle. And then the news confirming by doctors, by a medical scientific standpoint, confirming exactly what I just said hours before. So my mama, she had a rough time that time. It was one of the times that she ended up being in life support longer than 4 days, which is more than doctors had, recommended or would want, because as they always told us before, they don't want her on that machine longer than 4 days, because if she's on it longer than 4 days, her body will start to shut down to the point that her lungs won't be able to breathe on her own. They won't work. Her lungs would fail. So that was always a great worry and concern in the back of our minds. And it was something I always thought about. I kept it in the back of my mind. But still, I was like, no, my mama's a fighter. I know her. She has beat the odds. She has the strength of a Roman soldier back in ancient times. That's how I see her. In fact, if I were to give you a card out of the tarot deck, using the Rider-Waite, The card that always comes to mind when I think of my mother is the strength card. That's how I see her. And there's a beautiful card I have that I'll share later at another time to kind of give you an understanding of why and how I feel about it, and, and why I see her that way. But a lot of it has to do because of her strength and her will to live despite being so deadly sick and, being so young too, and being told she wouldn't live longer than 2 years without a lung transplant. But she did. She lived more than double that time. So the doctors were wrong, So for me at that moment, I had to be wrong too. I had to be wrong, and the doctors had to be wrong again. I wouldn't accept it. And so that time she went through the hospital, and she spent, about 2.5, 3 weeks in the hospital, I think it was. And she came home and everything went back to normal. I think even at that point, I felt like my mom ain't going to die in 6 months. That's not going to happen, And I went about, living my life, taking care of her, working myself into the ground, and so on. Pushed it out of my mind, in fact. And then comes, I think it was October. My mama had came to me and asked me, it might have even been September, about taking a trip with her and my grandmother, go home to California for a visit to see our family for the Thanksgiving holiday. And, I told her, I said, Mama, I can't go. I said, I can't go. I have to work. It's mandatory that I'm there on the holidays because, unfortunately, it was one of the restaurants that stayed open 24 hours, 365 days a week, or a year, excuse me. So it was never going to be closed. So, and it was mandatory that everybody who was employed there worked the holidays. Okay. Did it ever occur to me that I could go ahead and just tell that job to kiss my behind and find another one? No, because my family was in such financial distress. We were barely making it. And so the idea of me missing one day, no, I couldn't do it. No matter which way I looked at it, I couldn't do it. I had to be responsible and, stick to my responsibilities and my obligations. So I told her no. And she pleaded with me to go. She begged me, and I told her again, I said, Mom, I can't. I'm sorry. I would love to go. I would love to see my family, to be surrounded by my family like that. But I can't. I have to work. I'm sorry. That's a decision that I will regret for the rest of my life. And here's why. The day before Thanksgiving, I was at work. The restaurant was packed because of, the holiday coming up. Everybody was eating out because I'm sure everybody was tired of being in their kitchen, 2-3 days on end cooking. So they were eating out more. And I know people are also getting ready for the upcoming holiday shopping season for Christmas. So in the middle of my shift with a packed out restaurant, I get this thought that comes over me that says, call your mom. Call your mom. And I had a bad feeling something was wrong. And at the time, I was going to call her, but then I stopped myself. I said, no, if something's wrong, she will call me. Okay? And knowing I'm busy at work and I got a full restaurant, I'm trying to take care of all my customers and help the other servers and everything else, I couldn't stop to pick up the phone. And so it was 2 days later, my final day off. I'm worn out, exhausted. I had spent the night at my boyfriend's house, who I was with that time. And I needed to go home because I needed to do some things at my house and laundry and, all that stuff. And so I get home, my pager goes off. I look at it. I recognize the number, but I couldn't tell you whose number it was. but I knew the number. It was a familiar number to me, but I was drawing a blank whose number it was. And so I'm like, okay. So pick up phone, dial the number. My Aunt Georgette answers the phone. And I recognized her voice as soon as she answered. And I said, Aunt Georgette, I said, did you page me? She's like, no, honey, I didn't page you. I just got home. I've been out all day. I'm like, well, that's weird. I don't understand why, because I got a page with your number in it. So I called. And she's like, well, I don't know why that happened, but anyways, are you doing okay? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm tired from work, but yeah, I'm okay. Why? She's like, oh my gosh. What, you don't know? Know what? Your mother passed away day before yesterday. What? So imagine, just imagine the shock, the devastation that went through my whole being. I mean, I had so much regret, and I kicked myself in the ass, excuse my language, for it, because I didn't listen. And I got the warning. I got a 6-month warning. It was coming. And despite that, I didn't listen. And I forever will regret that decision. Not calling when I was being called to call her. And I'll also regret not going on that trip with her, because I wasn't there when she died. I didn't get to say goodbye. I lived with that for so many years, and even today, I'm still living with it. Am I at more peace with it today than I was back then? Yes. Have I gotten visits from my mama? Yes. And I've been lucky and blessed enough to also hear her voice since she's been gone. But I had to wait many years for that. But the point of it is, in that moment, I realized that I should have listened. And I swore to myself, I would never ever ignore it again. No matter how far-fetched it is, or how, unfathomable it could be that I would know something like that. But it happened. 6 months. I got a 6-month warning. Before any doctors told me, I already knew. I had the answer. But I didn't listen. And so it's something I take with me now. And whenever I get a feeling, I get a thought, I get whatever, a dream, a vision, it doesn't matter. I listen to it. Because I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather at least know that I did follow up on it to try and figure out what it is if I didn't have all the information, or if I didn't know who it involved. Because you just never know. And unfortunately, I've never been wrong. And there are more times than I can count that I wish I was wrong. But unfortunately, all them times I wanted to be wrong, I wasn't. So now I'll go into the time that something else happened and I was warned, but I listened to it and I was able to help change the outcome of it. And thank God, because I think to keep going through this, to be told of something like I did with my mama, you could feel so hopeless in that, because there's nothing you can do. And there was nothing I could do. But in this instance that I'm fixing to talk to y'all about and tell y'all about, I was able to change it. And this is one of two or three times maybe. I mean, I guess maybe a handful of times if you count the times that I was warned about not go somewhere because an accident or something like that's going to happen. But yeah, this involving someone else. So this was nearly 2 years ago, late one night in August. I had just gone upstairs after telling my husband goodnight because I was tired. And I went upstairs in our old house that we just sold to go in the bathroom, brush my teeth, comb my hair, all that good stuff, and go climb in bed. Well, when I went upstairs and walked into the bathroom, I went in there and, started brushing my teeth. And as I'm brushing my teeth, I get a thought, like someone talking to me, like my spirit guide, loved one, angel, whatever, that says, something's wrong with your husband. You need to go check on him. And I'm like, no, not again. So naturally, I'm in a hurry, and I go through and I rinse my mouth out, and I go, running downstairs. I walked into the living room, and before I even said anything to my husband, or he was even aware I was there, I watched him. And what I watched is, he's sitting on the couch, and he's holding a water bottle, or at least he's trying to, but he keeps dropping it. Like he had no control in his hands. He couldn't hold on to his water bottle. And so I said to him, I'm like, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? And he looked at me, he's like, baby, I'm not sure. For some reason, I can't hold on to my drink. And as he's telling me this, not only am I watching what he's telling me, but I notice his speech is slurred. I'm like, no. And at that moment, I thought he had a stroke. And so I said to him, I said, you need to get your shoes on. I said, because we're going to the hospital, because I know something's wrong with you. I said, besides the fact you can't hold on to your drink, your speech is slurred too. Something's wrong. We're going now. And he agreed to go. So we get to the hospital and walk into the ER and check in, and the triage nurse comes out to talk to us and ask why we were there. And I gave her the story, what happened from the time I was upstairs in the bathroom brushing my teeth, and the feeling and, the thought I got, to what I saw. And I told her, I feared he had a stroke. And as I'm telling her this, she's checking his vital signs and all that. And she's like, well, I don't believe he had a stroke. However, I can give you a reason for all of his symptoms he's having. I said, okay, what? She's like, his blood sugar is 1262. What? Repeat that by me again. She said his blood pressure is 1262. Holy crap. Okay. A blood sugar that high, that's an emergency. In fact, my husband should have been dead. Because for a healthy person who's not diabetic, doesn't have any, not pre-diabetes or anything like that, from my understanding, I'm not a doctor, I'm not any kind of medical professional, so understand, this is for entertainment purposes only, but from my understanding, someone like me, who's healthy, who doesn't have diabetes, my blood sugar should stay, around 100 or below. So for my husband, that was outrageous. It was a true emergency. And so she's like, well, let me get you into a room, and I'm going to grab the doctor, and we'll be right back. Okay, fine. So we get in the room, and then not even a few minutes later, the doctor walks in and asks what happened with the same nurse with him. And I went through and I told him the same story. I said, I went upstairs to go to bed, and I was brushing my teeth, and I got a bad feeling. Something told me something was wrong with him. I need to go check on him. And I did. And I saw this. I saw him dropping his water bottle. And I noticed his speech was slurred. And he was like, okay, well, he is diabetic. And now we have to admit him. Because we have to give him an insulin infusion to bring his blood sugar down. And he also has pneumonia. And then he told me, him and the nurse both told me, he was like, it's a good thing you listened to your gut instinct. You did good getting him here. You got him here just in the nick of time. Because if you had gone to sleep and waited until the morning to check on him, he would have been in a coma or worse. Well, y'all already know what worse means. And I was just blown. My head was blown, and I'm just like, oh my God. Thank you, God. I'm just thanking my lucky stars and my angels and loved ones, the spirit guides, to warn me, to tell me to go check on him, because I could have easily blown it off, knowing the fact that I just saw him like 10-15 minutes earlier and he was fine. But in those 10-15 minutes, it changed that quickly to where I could have just easily blown it off. It's like, he'll be fine, I'll check on him in the morning. But I didn't. Why? Because I know better. I know to listen. I learned that hard lesson from my mother, from what happened to her. So I knew not to ever, ever do that again. So thankfully, this is a story I can give you to give you that hope that there are those times. Most times, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's going to happen every time, because most times you may not be able to change it. But in the rare occasion, if you listen, if you're, keep an open mind and don't go in denial or say that's crazy, that's just your imagination, or allow other people to talk you out of it, you may find you can change the outcome to where it won't end up as badly as it would have. So how do you handle that? How do you handle situations like that? Beautiful people, I can't give you that answer. I'm only one person here. And the truth of it is that it's going to very much depend on you. It's going to depend on what it is you know. And when is it going to happen? And where? And why? Those 4 things you need to know. And if you're missing, a few pieces of the puzzle, it's hard to say what to do other than to listen to it, trust it. Maybe you don't know exactly who it involves, when it's going to happen, or why, but you just know something's not right. So all I can tell you is listen to it. In those times, I have to also be very careful, because like I said, I wouldn't go around telling people, oh, you're going to die. I just got a warning from heaven that tells me you're going to die. No, I don't do that. Nor am I going to go around warning loved ones when I get those warnings. But what I still try and do is I listen to it, and then I go checking up with everyone and just call them, hey, what's going on? Are you doing okay? How are you? How's, everyone? To get a feel. And then I might be able to narrow it down who it is. Now, does that mean I may also know when and what's going to happen? No, not always. Once or twice I may have known, but it's rare. So only you beautiful people can decide what's best for you. In those situations, you knowing yourself the best and using your discernment. Because, through my experiences, I know when those feelings come, and I know to listen to them. And I know, based on what it is, I know how to handle it. But understand me, that's come from me dealing with this since I was, 15 years old, when I got the first clear warning that something bad was going to happen. Like my mom was going to be rushed to the hospital hours before it happened. That was the very first time that I can tell you from my memory when I got a warning like that, and I listened to it. So it depends on you, beautiful people. Y'all have to decide. You have to decide what's best for you, what you think is best for you, and given all the information you are told or feel just trust it. Don't doubt yourself, because otherwise you may end up like me, where someone someone you love ends up dying and you didn't listen, and then you are robbed out of saying goodbye and being there possibly. So don't ignore it, no matter how crazy it is. Trust yourself. And like I said in my other video, keep a journal. If you are in doubt, if you just feel like, I don't know if I can trust it, I don't know how to trust it because I don't know anything, at least try and keep a baseline, a journal of all those feelings you're feeling. What it is you think you're getting. You know, whatever that information is, if anything at all, or maybe it's just a feeling. Just sink into that feeling to get a good grasp of what it feels like. So when it happens again, although I pray and wish it doesn't happen again, but unfortunately that's not reality. I know, you know, for me, it's going to happen again. So I can only imagine for y'all who've experienced it too, it will probably unfortunately happen again. That's when you got to get a good grasp and understanding of what those feelings are like, what the information is, and try and just tune into it. Just calm your mind enough. You know, go into like a meditative state, yes, but, you know, meditate is different for everyone. You know, to me, it's not just closing my eyes and sitting in an Indian style, okay? It can just be simply like me doing the dishes and I'll get a download. Or like I did with me brushing my teeth, you know, and it came through like that. So you just gotta, you know, decipher it for yourself. Use your discernment. Just don't ignore it when it happens. Acknowledge it and then know then how you want to handle it. Because also the way you may want to handle it could be different from mine. Like I said, you know, the fact that I said I wouldn't tell people, you know, if I knew they were going to die, you know, and when and why, or the, you know, close circle of loved ones to that person, you might feel differently. You might disagree with me. And that's okay. I understand. I understand both sides of this. And I've had to weigh those options, like I said. And there's only been maybe a handful of times where I end up having to not necessarily tell the person who's going to die or something like that along those lines. But I end up telling someone else. But like I said, there was so many other variables involved in it too that made me make those decisions at that point. But it doesn't mean you can apply it to every single time, because it's not one of those things where it's like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It's not. At least not for me. So beautiful people, I hope that this helps y'all in some way. You know, I'm going to close it here. I hope that I've given y'all a better understanding of this ability, if you have it or think you have it or have had those experiences and such, to kind of give you an understanding of where I come from and how I handle it. And I will share more stories pertaining to this in the future, because I have more. I just can't share them all in one day. So, but I hope this has been helpful and helps to explain things to you. I hope I didn't confuse you. And if I have, I apologize. That's not my intention. I just want to be helpful and informative as best as I can be, and to help empower you, to remind you that you are still in the driver's seat of your own life. And you are the one that can decide which way it goes, where it turns, everything. So just remember that. And just remember, you're beautiful, you're wonderful. And okay, my gents, I can't leave y'all out. Y'all are handsome. So I hope this has been helpful to y'all, though. For y'all who still had questions about, or may been confused or don't completely understand, I hope this kind of helps it some more. And I'll share more in the future, beautiful people. But until then, you know, I'm wishing y'all so much love and happiness, many blessings, and all the great things in this life we all want. And yes, we are deserving of, including you, beautiful. Until next time, be good.